Here we are. So what I thought maybe, because we're talking about fitness and working as a fitness coach, is maybe if you want to start, Paulo, just tell everyone here a little bit about about your background. How did you get started working in soccer? I know a little bit about it. Obviously, I don't know everything, and maybe how did you get from getting started whenever that was 20 plus years ago to the work that you're doing now?
Wow, how did I get started? I mean, it just fell on my lap in ways that I never thought that we could make a living doing what we do. I remember early on, a coach very dear to me, Rafael Carvajal. He's the one that gave me the start with his team. My brother played for him, and he's the one that converted me to a fitness coach and said, "Hey, go make them run." At that time, I was a track athlete, and I started getting an interest for it, and people decided to pay me for whatever reason at that point to do it. And I said, you know what, there's something here. And so thanks to that guidance and the opportunities from Dr. Greenwood with the Sports Injury and Rehab Center, I mean, I couldn't be luckier to have two people who gave me opportunities well before my time or before my preparation. So that's how I got started. And there's so many stories to roll into from there.
Well, let's roll into them then. So at that time you were working with some of Rafael's teams. Like I guess it would have been Azzurri, CS Azzurri.
Yeah, CS Azzurri, and then we became Club Uruguay, and then we also had a team, and at that time it became Toronto Azzurri. Then I got involved with other youth clubs in the GTA. Because as you know if you're going to try to make a couple bucks, you have to wear a few tracksuits. And eventually I left with him to Italy and got to get that experience before coming back to really start making the next steps of my career, which was with the Ontario Soccer Association, and then with the youth national teams, and then with all the CPSL, CSL teams that I got to work with.
So do you think? And I know you and I have probably talked about this, but not online, not in front of anybody. But talk to us a little bit about like how valuable was that experience in Italy, and maybe just describe it a bit more, because as I mentioned, I know you worked with both a senior team and some youth teams, and it was through that connection with Rafael, and you were there for a year or two, and then came back, and I know your career really sort of started to take off after that. So. It
was a span of 2.5 years in Faenza, which is near Bologna. The club was owned by Giancarlo Minardi, which is at the time Formula One Minardi, which is now I think AlphaTauri. It's funny when I watch the Formula One next Netflix series, I see Faenza, and it brings me back to exactly where I started there. And that experience for me was the defining moment for sure, because there's no education that would actually have prepared me for what the real life is in football. I mean, I live it now, and I still touch upon those experiences, dealing with hard issues, dealing with difficult people, dealing with people, thousands of people wanting your job, dealing with media is trying to cut your legs. And I mean, back then I really didn't have the preparation or the knowledge at all, but what was nice is that I got to really see it firsthand. So now that 20 years later, I'm completely ready for it, and it's been a great ride. I mean, Faenza for me was a really fun time, and yes, I worked with the youth teams first, but then I got to the first team, and in the first team we were actually involved in a reality TV show where in the league one of the teams was actually followed by cameras like a Big Brother style, getting voted on and off. Imagine, I saw a video the other day getting back from the airport at 5 a.m. on my Facebook. It showed up a video of that period of time, and that's like well before social media. I mean, a concept like that now would have went through the roof. So there was a lot of feelings. There's a lot of things that went around that.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure it was an amazing experience for you, and obviously helped you a lot. And now, I was thinking, again, hearing you talk a little bit about how you got started, and here in Canada, and some of the things you say, they ring very true for me too. So in Canada specifically, you came back from Italy, and that was when again, I guess you would have started working in the Ontario provincial program and Ontario soccer, and eventually with the national teams. Like at that time, I kind of know the answer to this, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. What was, did this the work that you did, was it well respected? Did people really understand it? Was there really a job and a career, or did you have to kind of carve your own path with it? And how did you make that happen?
There's so many layers to that. So yeah. I mean, so just to start off, I mean, to even get the position with the Ontario Soccer Association, the only way it was going to happen was that I had to get a grant from the Canadian Coaches Association, Coaching Association of Canada. So with we won a bid with Brian Rosenfeld. We made a bid to create this position, and that position was contingent of receiving that money and really not a penny more. So we made that happen. And at that point in time, for me, it wasn't about money. It was about doing the job. Yeah. And that was the same thing whether it was the Canadian Soccer League and many of them. Honestly, like, it actually, my stomach is turning thinking about some of those things that I had to do and went through, but they formed me, because I in the end, the most important jobs I've had were the ones where I got paid the least. And I say that all the time, and I mean it quite a bit. And in fact, and this, and this is one of the arguments I've always had with many people, whereas I never had a day job. What the thing was is that coaching in Canada, or especially in those times, is primarily in the evening from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Yeah. And people were like, no, they do a job during the day and they do that at night. And I was from the mindset that if I were to do something else during the day, that would be sidetracking what I really wanted. I was a professional at what I did. It didn't matter whether I was doing it for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or 5 hours, and it didn't matter what time it was. So the day was spent preparing, planning, learning, growing, and that was part of being the job. And I think that's one of the things that people have a hard time with. They try to have a plan B, and I never had a plan B.
That's an interesting point. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I know we had talks about this too, and I've always sort of felt the same way, that if you what you said there is that if you had another job, you feel like it would distract and take away. I mean, I think even the amount of time and energy that you really need to do the best job that you can on the field means that you cannot possibly be working, from 8 or 9 a.m. until 5 o'clock, and then, plan a training session in the 30 minutes, while you're in your car or something. Like there's just no way.
It's impossible, right? It's impossible. And I remember a very defining conversation with you, for example, is that in 2011, it was probably the lowest point in my career, where I had no work, no money, nothing was going for me. I didn't get a sniff anywhere in Canada or any of the youth clubs. And it was a really low time for me. And I still scrounged up the money to go to Japan with you. Yeah. And we saw the top of the top experts and people that sat with us. We couldn't believe the people that sat with us. And to the point that even one of them, I was, 4 or 5 years ago, up for a job against, imagine. And for me, what was crazy is at that point in time, it was such a struggle. I thought that, maybe it wasn't for me. Maybe I needed to take a step away and that's it. And my wife would never let that happen at that point in time. But I remember that conversation with you where you're like, but what you want is very slim. There's only 3 clubs in Canada that at the time, it was 3 clubs in Canada that could give you that opportunity. I said, that's 3 more than I need. All I need is 1. Yeah. And funny enough, about 11 months later, I signed with one of them and actually had a great career with Montreal. And thanks to Montreal, I owe a lot to Montreal as a city, as a club. I wouldn't be with Club America if it wasn't for them either. And so I'm thankful that it went that way.
Yeah, I remember that. And funny enough that even though, the number of professional clubs here in Canada anyway has grown a little bit. The reality is, and I know you know this very well, that still it's pretty much those three that are in the MLS that are the only ones that are able to provide a real, I mean, we can say maybe a living wage, let's say, right? Something where you can simply just do that work and not do any other work. And I've lived through that a little bit too at some of the lower levels that are still professional. So I know, and I know how important that step for you was there in Montreal. So that was that was a big jump. And I do remember in Japan, and by the way, for people who are listening, so Paolo and I were there because we both had co-authored and done some work together, like collecting fitness testing data with the provincial teams and the NTC at the time, they called the National Training Center. And we had made a little like a poster summarizing the research, which was looking into a comparison between the fitness test scores of some of the provincial players in Ontario, and then the scores of the players who started in the provincial program and then got into the NTC, and we were showing some of the differences there. So anyway, so that's why we were in Japan, and I do remember that talk, and I remember you telling me that, like, you said, I'm ready, right? And I'm meaning you're ready, you're ready to work at the next level. And then not long after that was when you started to do it there in the MLS. So maybe talk to everybody a little bit more about, what was it like working in Major League Soccer? What was it like with Montreal? And you also got, obviously through that, you got the opportunity to work with some top players, Italian players, including Alessandro Nesta. And obviously that was probably a big challenge for you, but also very rewarding, right? So talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it happened so fast in a whirlwind, where I basically was working at the OSA, and the offer came very quickly, and I picked up and left the next day. And when I got to Montreal, before you knew it, I was on the field, and I have Marco Di Vaio, Alessandro Nesta, Matteo Ferrari right in front of me. And honestly, I felt so comfortable. There was no feeling of transition at that point in time. I was like, okay, now it's finally happening what needed to be happening. And we flew directly to Italy for a postseason camp. And what happened is in 2003, when I was with Faenza, with Rafael, we went to go watch Uruguay and Argentina play each other in a friendly in Firenze, in Fiorentina Stadium. And I remember sitting in that stadium, and I looking at that field, I said, I need to be on that field one day. And this was 2003. So 2012, now I'm flying to go there, and we're playing a game in that stadium against Fiorentina. So imagine me walking out of that tunnel for the first time and seeing that field and looking up at the stands where I was sitting, 9 years prior, and saying, wow, look at that. When you put something in your head, it's going to happen. And, on a work level, it was really a smooth transition because I was prepared. I worked with, good people, and especially on the human aspect. I mean, that's what was really important for me leading into that.
Yeah, well, I know. I remember I came to visit you there, and as I did, even in some of the other places that you worked, and I anytime I would do that, I would like to go very early, to the stadium, make sure I'm there to watch the warm up and the work that you're doing there, and it was something, what you're saying, it does kind of ring true to me too, that when you have these feelings, and you're in a stadium, it's a big game atmosphere and all that, and that's something that you remember, and that you chase those feelings and those experiences a little bit, and there you are, you've done it, right? So
those feelings keep driving you. They keep driving you. Like, for me, it was a momentous occasion, especially with Montreal, with the Champions League final. That we unfortunately lost in the second half to the club that I belong to now, and I see that trophy every day. I walk by that trophy.
You walk past it, right? Yeah.
Every day. Yeah. The first year I didn't want to. The first year, but now I belong to Club America, so for me it's now it's my trophy over here. So losing to Monterrey this past Champions League was a tough one for me to swallow. To 2 Champions League finals, it's a tough one to swallow. So I hope I do get a third chance, and the third one is sure.
Yeah, I hope you do too. Absolutely. So from Montreal, I guess the next professional club that you ended up working with was in Miami, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
How did that come about?
So the thing is Alessandro now became a coach. Nesta became a coach, and he was getting that team in Miami. And he said to me, "Listen, if I take over that team, I want you to come with me." And I said, "Sure." And for me, it wasn't about the level, it wasn't about the city, it was about building a project. And funny enough, the day I signed with Miami, I actually got the offer to come here to Club America in 2015, and unfortunately, I had to turn it down. Hold on one second. Hola. Sí, sí, sí. Gracias. I had to turn it down because I'm a person of my word, and for me, I believe in the project with the staff, and I was lucky enough that we built something fantastic in Miami. We beat Orlando, we beat Atlanta. You know, I see some of the MLS teams, we would have beat most of them. We got unlucky in the quarterfinal against Cincinnati at the time, and I think we could have probably made that final. I mean, it would have been really tough, but I think we could have made it. And my goodness, that was a great 2 years on a family level, on a soccer level. There was so much that happened there.
Right. Yeah. And I've got some fond memories of coming to visit you there, and as your family was growing as well. So that was a good time for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure.
So then, and I know a little bit about what happened with the league, and basically obviously with the league folding, right, and the club having to fold as well. Then how did you end up working with Club America? I mean, obviously they must have gotten back in touch because they'd been in touch with you before. Hello? Oh, I don't know if we got temporarily disconnected there. Let's see. Is Paolo still there? Oh, you still there, Paolo?
Turkey. Few things that we turned down in Italy, but when they decided to go to Serie A, Serie B, that wasn't going to be in the plans for me. So America jumped on it. So before you knew it, that was here, and starting
Paolo,
to build this.
Sorry to interrupt. I think that answer to that question that I asked you got cut off. I don't know if you want to just start again. The audio got cut off. Oh, looks like you're coming live here now. Let's give it a sec. No, didn't work. Let's try again. Oh,
can you hear me, Richard?
Yeah, I can hear you now. There he is. Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry. I had to get rid of the Wi-Fi because what happened was as I drive into the club, the Wi-Fi kicks in. So
yeah. All right, but we're good now.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay,
Repeat the question again.
The question was just after NASL folded, right? And you're obviously out of a job in Miami. How did it come about that you came back?
So the thing is, we decided not to renew in Miami. That's what happened. We weren't going to stay there because we were planning. There were some big teams in China, big money, big situations that we were very close to, and they fell out because certain people wouldn't accept any buyouts in the coach that they were trying to buy out. So that's what happens in soccer. Sometimes you need to wait. You need to be without a job sometimes to get the next one. But when Alessandro went to Serie B, that wasn't going to be in the plans for me. So America jumped onto the opportunity to get me on board. And I said, okay, now's the time. It was the right timing at this point in time.
And I guess if you had to rank, this kind of leads me into what I wanted to talk to you about, and I thought people would be interested in, because until that point when you went to Mexico, your experience outside of the North American game was a little bit less. I know you'd worked in Italy way back when, but like, how would you compare and contrast, let's say, the pro game in North America, which you had a lot of experience with, to now, the pro game in Mexico?
Hey, it's a loaded question because for me, and I know you chose that one on purpose.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I enjoy being here. Maybe my family enjoys it less, that I don't have as much vacation. I don't have 3 months off. I might get 2 weeks off. But I think it's great for me, and it's great for the work that I can do. I mean, the consistency from season to season is always there. One of the struggles always in MLS is those 3 months off and trying to get players back to a normal status. I can't even imagine now with the CPL with, I don't know, we have like 5 months off. For me, it's a disaster especially in our area. But people think it's all physical. No. How do you not play matches, week in and week out? I mean,
for 3 months.
5 months without playing an official match, or 4 months without playing an official match. That to me is ridiculous. I have players in my team that play 60, 65 games a year. Okay. Minimum. I think Ochoa has over 760 to 500 minutes in the last year with the Olympics, with Nations League, with he plays every game here. So it's like, that's what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a player that is constantly prepared. And how do you fluctuate that preparedness versus when in MLS or in Canada, you have players that you have to get them back from zero up, and they think that they're not at zero. They think that, but they really are, because just doing some fitness on the side is not the same as playing week in and week out.
Right. And I can tell you, from my most recent experience now in the CPL, this what you're saying really rings true to me. And one of the challenges a lot of times becomes, and maybe I'd like your opinion on this too, is it seems like in our world, in strength and conditioning and fitness, in sports in general and soccer in particular, that there's been a lot more emphasis lately, especially in the last decade, on not just recovery, but on preventing overtraining, on this idea that are we doing too much? Or it's another loaded question for you. Right? Yeah, so
I know
I can see your face. Right? Yeah. So
recovery from what?
Exactly. So we have this idea that like all of a sudden everybody's doing too much, and we're afraid about training too hard and this and that, and yet I'm hearing you talk about professional players at the top level in a top league, right? International players that are playing 65 full 90-minute games, and then you can do the math and you can say, well, 65 games in 52 weeks is 1 point whatever games per week, not 2 games, but more than 1 for the whole year, and they have only a few weeks off, and somehow they're able to do it. So anyway,
just to give you an example of one player, for example, we have a player, he was in the FC Dallas Academy, Mexican American. He scored a phenomenal goal last night against Leon. He played almost 90 minutes. He played 90 minutes in Tijuana. We flew to Tijuana, 4 hours there, 2-hour time zone. We come back. Okay. Now we played against Leon midweek, and now we're gonna fly to Monterrey this weekend, and he's gonna play in all 3 games. Probably almost. He came out in the 75th minute last night, I think. And I mean, and then on the Wednesday, he's gonna play for the Mexican national team in his debut with the national team. And then on the weekend, play for against Cruz Azul. So just to give you an idea, as you have, 5 big games within a period of 2 weeks.
14 days. Yeah. And so clearly, we have lots of examples of, that players are capable of this, right? So now, not all players are prepared for that, and I think that sort of speaks to what you were talking about before, which is that in these environments, especially here, in Canada and the States, where there's a huge off season, there's a lot of time off. And it sounds to me like you were kind of saying that, with that time off and with the way things are, it's very difficult for players to stay prepared. So is it the case that we need we need to professionalize things more and get to the point where we have a longer season, we have fewer breaks, we have and maybe better periodization of load, right? Is that going to help players handle the load better and not get hurt, or our players doing too much?
The thing is this, is when I saw pictures of family members showing that there was snow there in April.
Yeah, last weekend.
I died because I haven't seen that in forever, because I mean, I lived in Miami before here and I live here now. So I get the whole challenge of like having the season longer. I get it. I get it. But I mean, I think now there has been, I think that's what's been fantastic about COVID. COVID has shown us different solutions. So bubble tournaments, distance training, we've had to come up with solutions. So, I mean, there might be different solutions for our leagues, like, I mean, with the CPL, when they had that period of time when they first started with I think it was in the Dominican Republic. Yeah. Well, why stop that? Do that right away from February, do where everybody's in preseason there and there's maybe Florida. 2 official matches there. And then move on from there. I mean, there's so many opportunities to do things. Players need to play year round. And this is, I remember, we discovered, we saw the benefits with CS Azzurri when we used to train at Lamport in the winter all year round. And we would get to March and we would destroy the teams because everybody was too busy playing 5v5 in the soccer center and stuff like that. So now I see it on the real level. I see when MLS teams in the month of March, it's very hard to watch, and by the month of March, we're already 7 games or 8 games into our season here. So plus 2 or 3 friendlies easily.
Right. And I think, you've touched on this because this is something I want to ask you about, but that, it's clearly not just physical, that the lack of preparation affects.
It's not physical. Everybody thinks you can go run, and the game is your brain, and your brain gets tired. Why do you think when players come back from injury, they struggle so much? No, they did all the physical preparation possible, but now making decisions, the timing, the intuition, that went all out the window for the last 4 to 6 weeks. And that's why. So imagine that happens to an injury, 4 to 6 weeks. But now when you make it double that because of an off season, what do you think happens then? You know?
Right.
And that's a big struggle. And that's why I love the players that I really enjoyed working with in MLS, like Marco Di Vaio. He asked me as of January 1st. I remember the preseason started like the last week of January 1st. We were already working together. He was already in town. Yeah. And I remember watching him work, and I said, listen, Marco, if a season like this, training like this, you're going to score 20 goals this season. And he said, if I score 15, you're going to get a big present. He scored 20. On the 15th given goal, he's giving me that jersey. And then I said, but you're not signing it until you score number 20. I don't care. And he scored 20. I said, now you can sign it.
Yeah. Well, as I said, this idea of, maybe, the work that you do, being more than just physical. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. And again, maybe this is another loaded question, but I've definitely noticed, if I were to contrast the experiences I've had, in Uruguay, outside of Canada, and the traveling that I've done, because I've only ever worked in one other country, but I've traveled a lot and talked to a lot of people from other countries, and I've noticed a big difference in the not just the way that the work that a fitness coach does, but also in the the way that everybody from the head coach, assistant coach, the management of the club, even the players work with and interact with a fitness coach. I mean, it's clearly different here in Canada and kind of the traditional North American model to how it is in other countries. And, I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
You really want to get me in trouble, don't you?
Of course, yeah. Well,
The biggest issue is that people think that it's a separate job. And these are some of the things that I've had conversations with. And even in terms of like the pay scale is completely out of whack. The fitness coach is responsible for most of the organization of how the team works. Okay. And that's what an assistant coach does not usually provide that, unless it's somebody that's been with that coach for many, many years. But usually it's the fitness coach that actually is providing that. You're an assistant coach with and a responsibility in terms of the performance, the physical performance, and the performance of the players, not the technical and tactical performance, but the physical underpinning performance you're responsible for, and it's involved in everything that you do. So, for example, I had a hard discussion last night in the dressing room after a game that we won about how we're going to approach today with the players that didn't play. And in terms of the distances per meters per squared per player, and why this versus that. And that's it. And that's my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to do warm-ups. I wanna puke when I hear people say warm-ups. It's a lot more than warm-ups. I don't even do a warm-up anymore. Like the warm-up is what's happening in the gym. You go on the field, is exercise maybe number 1 and 2. And that's why when people say, oh, that was a long warm-up. No, that wasn't a warm-up. That was physical preparation. Okay, then we went to technical preparation. That's the difference. And I think people have to stop. It's so easy to separate things. It's just, and that's why people pay to go, sorry, Richard, 60 minutes to do a session somewhere. But when it should be integrated in the session, 20, 30 minutes every single day within the session, in the beginning, the middle, the end, with concepts that are related to the session itself. You know, the concept of a microcycle, and I would have never, ever had that concept of what it really means to develop a microcycle, a full week plan, if I didn't live in Italy. Okay, and in Italy, I saw the importance, and I saw the mistakes I made, not observing a microcycle, when you should do this, when you shouldn't do that. And once you establish these things properly, and that's my responsibility as the fitness coach or director of performance methodology, or whatever you want to call it, is that's how things go. I'm really happy of what I've established here, and you saw it so much in the youth. They really didn't have a clear microcycle, and by me establishing that, there was a big difference for everybody in terms of what you're able to squeeze out of the players. So now coaches understand when I could smash the players, and when I need to take the foot off the gas, and when I need to do this, and when I need to do that. And that's what our job is.
Right. And so if I'm going to summarize and paraphrase, like the fitness coach, the work that you do needs to be integrated into everything that the team has done.
Everything.
Yeah.
What's funny is here, when people ask, but what did you guys do so different? They say to the other, like my colleagues, you know, the fitness coaches and other coaches, but you know, why? What changed? Like what happened? And they say we work with metrics, and I realized, yeah, because what I've established here is that there was an actual measured amount of what we're doing and when we're doing it throughout the week. Mm-hmm. And they're actually, whether you're a coach, a fitness coach, or the doctor, you can really regurgitate it and say, no, on this day, we're doing this because of this, and it's going to go like this. Where if you only allow the fitness coach to go do his warm up and then come back, everything goes out the window, because there's no relation. There's no relationship in that work. And it's like, so for example, in a day, so when I want to do a lot of high intensity running on the Wednesday, on a -3 days out from the game, if I do that and then the coach starts doing everything tactical and everything is standstill, what the heck? What was the reason? Why did I do that? So that's why the planning and everything has to go in sync.
Yeah, and that speaks to the point that the fitness coach needs to be part of the staff, right? Because if you're not integrated that way, if you're stuck in the weight room or whatever, then there's no way for you to do that.
I had a colleague of mine in an MLS team that I will not mention that said, "No, Paolo, what do you think of microdosing strength?" I go, "What does that mean?" "No, microdosing." I say, "Stop with the verbal diarrhea, please." What you're telling me is that you should be doing strength every day. Yeah, but a little amount. But of course.
Then say that. Yeah,
take something away from the rest of the session. You are training soccer players. You're not training CrossFitters. Okay. So yes, there is a strength component that happens within the session. What do you think shooting is? What do you think rondos are? What do you think small-sided games are? Those are strength activities as well. But how much of it is explosive? How much of it did you do before to prepare that? You need to plan all that. So yeah, go microdose all you want. That word makes you feel happy. No, yes, there is a component of physical preparation that has to happen on a regular basis.
Right.
Not a 60-minute strength session. Somebody said to me, yeah, strength. 18 minutes was my explosive strength session, and then 6 minutes on the field. That's it, done.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. I hear you. So now this brings me to, you know, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about the, you know, the coach education work that you're doing. I'm doing similar stuff here, and I have been for a while. And I'll tell you that one of the things that became very apparent to me, and it's funny you're mentioning about kind of when Paolo says, you know, the 60-minute, you know, fitness session, that's because, you know, he did it way back when. So did I. And this is the way.
That's how we made a living.
That's right.
That's how we made a living.
This is the expectation of most, you know, of the coaches here where we come from, primarily because, you know, since there isn't enough understanding about anything to do with fitness or sports science, you know, there is this sort of opinion out there that, okay, you have your team trains 4 days a week, and then on top of that, you do a 1-hour fitness session, and that's your fitness, and that's the way it's supposed to be done, and that's the way it is done. Now, you know, we've talked about that, and it doesn't make sense. And yes,
I make that comment, but I know your philosophy is otherwise. Yeah. But I mean, in the day, and you've been working hard at this, the day until clubs really understand how to integrate professionals. I mean, even at Toronto FC Academy, in Toronto FC Academy, they have one fitness coach for the youth. One.
For the whole academy. Yeah.
I have 9. Okay.
Yeah.
I have 9 in the youth.
Yeah.
They have 1. Okay. And that's the difference.
Even in Uruguay, where there's no money, every single team within a club from 14 to 18 has a preparador físico. Every single.
From my U11s,
that's right. Yes. So
from my U11s to U20s, we have.
That's right.
The women's U17 have. The women's team has. You know?
So here's my question then, because, you know, I'm in this environment, and I know, and you are as a coach educator here, right, in the States, and you know, so because it's not really different in the States, right? So the realization that I kind of came to was that, well, you know what, the biggest problem, I think, or everything stems from this problem anyway, which I would call the biggest problem, is that coaches are not taught about. They're not taught about periodization of training load. They're not taught about how to integrate fitness into their training. You know, they're really not taught, even at the highest licenses. And I have an A license from the States, so
because nobody works like that.
Yeah. So since they don't teach it, you know, now what do you think? You know, what's the importance of someone like you, you know, as a coach educator, teaching coaches how they can bring, you know, they can incorporate, you know, physical work into their practice, but then the issue is, does that then make a coach feel in the long run that they don't need a fitness coach? And what are your thoughts about that?
Okay, so thank you for putting the plug of my efforts in education. I'm working with United Soccer Coaches, and we've created with a team of another 3 friends the Sports Performance Diploma, which is actually it went on sale. Our 3rd course for this year just went on sale, I think, Monday, and they sell it fast. We've sold out 2 courses already this year. We sold out 3 out of the 3 last year. There's only 40 students because we want to make sure we give enough time on Zoom. And what we talk about in this is, and mostly our coaches, high school coaches, youth coaches, college assistant coaches, to understand where physical performance fits in the training session. People want to know exercises. No, you need to understand why you develop an exercise and how you develop an exercise. And that's what we talk about. We give a lot of theory, and then we start throwing in the practice, and we want to give people an opportunity to learn how to learn. You and I, for example, we taught ourselves how to learn. We started in 2011, right after that trip in Japan, and we said, you know what, every single week, you and I are going to bring up a topic, and we're going to talk about that topic. And it's funny. One of the first topics we talked about, because we met the person, Aaron Coots, we talk about RPE. And to this day, we talk about rate of perceived exertion. And I remember as little as maybe 5-6 years ago, people say, what is this? It's nonsense. To the point that now that everybody talks about it, and you and I have been talking about it for 11 years now, thanks to that gentleman that sat with us. And I remember turning to you and I said, Rich, is it that easy? Nah, it can't be. And then we started doing it.
I remember.
So
yeah.
the key, and this is where you're going with, is to learn how to learn. And that's why, back to what we were talking about earlier, if you're working 8 to 5 during the day, when are you going to learn? If you're just working and then training and working and training, where are you going to learn? So you need to spend time learning courses. You need to spend time. And I know some people, they left the country like you've done. You need to leave Canada. You need to leave for a month. You need to leave 3 months and then really feel the environment. And then you get to grow and really learn. You know, courses are there to teach you what you don't know and what you need to know, but they're not going to give you the information firsthand. So invest in courses, but invest in your time to really develop the information that you grab from those courses.
Yeah.
And back to the positioning of a fitness coach who's in that role is coaches need to understand, and organizations need to understand how they create the philosophy. You know, I had a gentleman that really, John Highland in North Toronto Soccer Club, who opened that door for me because he understood. And we said, okay, how are we going to put a little grain of salt in each of the teams so that there is a way of working, you know? And they've done an excellent job. You know, I work with Herman, fantastic coach, Marco. These are people that got it. And that's the most important thing, people that get it, you know? Or I remember, I swear, this is one of my favorite stories, is with McMaster University. My buddy, Steve Lidstone, who was the director of performance for one of the first that did that in Canada, brought me on board to go work with McMaster Soccer. And I said, listen, Steve, if I'm going to do it, I do my way. And I don't want to hear anything. He goes, okay, what does that mean? No strength training during the season. He goes, what are you talking about? No strength training in the gym during the season. And he's like, but how? That's the most important thing. I said, yeah, but you have players that come with no preseason. They
Out of shape.
2 weeks preseason, and that's it. I'm loading them, and they got to play 2 games a week. Are you crazy? And Dino was a great fan of mine. He understood. We built the microcycle, when to put speed, when to put HSR, how to do strength on the field, you know, how to invest in strength outside of the season, how to do extra for players that weren't playing. And he went to a national championship for the first time in I don't know how many years. McMaster that year went to a national championship, and they become a top program. Okay. And that's because the coach understood what it meant. Okay. He understood how to put that together, and he allowed me to do what I needed to do.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a long time ago too, wasn't it? We're talking,
2008
before you went away. Yeah.
2009, 2008, maybe around then.
Right. So fitness coaches, you know, definitely need to be integrated. We've talked about that. Coach education and including fitness and sports science in coach education is very important. But in addition to that, coaches, and especially coaches that want to work in the higher levels, need to experience the higher levels and preferably.
But the administrators, and the people that, you know, build these clubs, they need to learn how to. They need to go around, because I'll give you an example. A guy like Dino Perry, how come he doesn't have a professional team? Okay, that guy understood how to make it happen back then. You know, Carmen Isako, you know, the years that he spent with me now, you know, he knows. The problem is the people that are building the clubs, they have to know. They need to know what it looks like. They can't judge it if they don't know what it looks like.
And they lack that experience too,
and
right?
This is why. For me, I'm very happy here at home in Mexico.
I hear you. Yeah, I can feel that happiness coming through the and the warm weather too. I can see the sun shining behind you.
No, that's it. It's like this every day. It's like this every day. No, I'm very grateful to Mexico as a country. I'm very grateful to America as a club, what they've given me. I mean, you know, you come into a dressing room after a game like last night, 5 games in a row we won. You know, we're 6 unbeaten since I've taken over. We lost the first one to Monterrey, and then we tied against Chivas, and then we in Clásico, and then we won all the rest. You know, getting the kudos from whether it's staff or sporting directors, media, these are the things that, you know, you work for. And when you work in an environment that understands the difference, you get that recognition. When you work in an environment that doesn't understand anything, you don't get any recognition.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. Well, I wanted to just maybe we could switch gears a little bit and talk about maybe if you have been keeping up with what's happening here in Canada in the last little while. We've had some success, right? We won an Olympic gold medal with the women last year, and now we've just qualified our men's team for the first World Cup since 1986. You know, objectively speaking, you know, obviously that's a great result. And then outside of that, okay, we have a Canadian professional league, which we've never had since, you know, whenever it was a few decades ago. And we have Ontario League One. We have, you know, more competitive university programs with better coaching. So there's quite a lot of positives here. And I know you haven't been around Canada a lot lately, but I'm sure you've been watching a little bit. And
yeah, a little bit. I've watched a little bit. I've met with people when they came to visit here, like people from Hamilton Forge. They came to visit with me. I toured them in the club, and we talked about a few things. It's fantastic to have that league. I think, you know, if that would have been around, you know, 10, 12 years ago, you know, I definitely would have worked in there. You know, and now I'm at a different level at this point. But I'm happy for the opportunity to have that league, but they need to make sure that they respect these types of things and put the people in place. You know, I've had a couple of talks with a couple of clubs that say, listen, don't put the hockey fitness coach in there. Don't put the basketball fitness coach in there. There's so many passionate individuals that get the game out there, and they will make the difference. And unless they start putting those types of people, forget about it. You know, like it's gonna really take its time. You know, so that's that. The women's national team, that's always been a success. I mean, I think on that team, that gold medal team, I worked with, I think, 12 of those players, 7 or 8 starters from when they were from 14 to 17 years old. Okay. And that's where we did a great job at the Ontario Soccer Association, which I think nobody knows what we did over there, honestly. We created a culture of work. We created an intensity with Brian Rosenfeld that what really upsets me is that nobody even talks about it or knows. And that's one of the biggest issues in Canada, where nobody really knows. You know, there's no media, there's no real interviews. This is probably one of the only interviews I've done with anybody Canadian in the last, you know, I did 2, I think, or maybe a third one I did, but in 4 years. And since I left Montreal, I've done absolutely nothing. No, and even while I was in Montreal for the Canadian national teams and stuff like that, we don't do a good job of taking advantage of resources or having people around that are that have experience, and we don't do a good job of that in Canada.
Yeah, you're right, and it's funny.
Sorry, I went off on a tangent because we're talking about the women's team, and then the men's team. Hey, the men's team, fantastic. That's fantastic news. It's great. Hopefully, it's understood what needs to be done. The money that will come, thanks to sponsorship and everything, gets invested properly. That people, and that's why I talk to the administrators or the people that are organizing things that have soccer people involved, whether it's from different countries with different accents, but really start putting that together, so that you really have something ongoing, especially when it comes to coaching education, when it comes to facilities infrastructure. You know, stop building facilities with no dressing rooms. You know, you put a $2 million field and you can't put a $30,000 dressing room. These are where the things that really make the difference, that we're soccer people say. You know, like if you go to Spain, for example, and we had this conversation with the director of the academy, he's from Villarreal. You can't go to a turf field in Spain and you're not going to have the hoses, the jets on each of the corners that will water the field. Because, but why? For many reasons. 1, the play is faster. 2, it's safer. 3, they slide. 4, the maintenance of the field. You know, there's less friction.
Keeps the grass, the turf lasting long.
Again, you put a $2 million field, but you're not willing to put a $60,000 watering system that pump water. It doesn't make any sense. And only a soccer person will tell you about that. And that's what's lacking in Canada. You know,
more soccer people at all of the different, let's say, levels, from administration to
Exactly.
Fitness
Exactly.
coaches, yeah.
You know, but even equipment managers, okay?
Yeah.
I have three. Three of the most important people in the team are the equipment managers. You know, and these are things that are roles of, but what do you mean? They're the ones that set up the field. They're the ones that put the lines and everything that, okay, I want this. They understand, you know, the timing and everything. But again, I'm lucky enough that I lived in different environments that understood the importance of these things. And I always say this, if I only lived in Canada, I probably would have a hard time understanding these things.
So I think, you know, I know we've got coaches listening. I know we've got some fitness coaches that are going to watch this and
have questions, Richard? I don't mind fielding questions.
Well,
you know
you know what? I did send a note to everybody. There haven't been any questions here yet, but I'm going to start because it's almost 3 o'clock here now. My question, you know, I'm sure we've touched on some of this stuff, but this is a direct question is, you know, what advice then would you have for, let's say, somebody, you know, like you or I 25 years ago, let's say, you know, maybe getting ready to graduate high school, that kind of thing, or thinking about a career doing what you're doing.
So
how do they get started? Yeah.
It's really simple. Get your hands dirty. Don't think about the paycheck. Do not think about the money. Get your hands dirty. Work with a senior team. Okay? League One. Fantastic. Go work with one that is serious, that wants to train 4 or 5 days a week. Okay? And that puts your commitment to the test. Go work with every age group that you can, boys and girls. Don't think that it's only about first team or about men's game. Okay? You learn by doing everything possible. Have standards. Have standards. Don't just go with the flow. Have standards. Keep learning. Keep learning what you want to apply. Discuss with people that you want to apply. When you find a dead end with a coach, or find a coach that you like to work with, because if I say this all the time, I didn't grow thanks to fitness coaches or other fitness coaches. I grew thanks to the coaches I work with and the pressure they put on me.
Yeah.
And work with coaches that engage discussion, engage conversation, engage ideas, create solutions. When you find a block, move on. Don't, even if they're paying you good money, move on, because you're not going to learn anymore. And that's what's really important to get started with. Don't wait till you're done school. I started doing this at 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, I didn't know what I was doing when I first started, but I started getting a feel for it. And that's what actually made the difference. And who I am today on the field, and I see some pictures and I laugh, is I'm the same person. And I was having a conversation with Carmen Isako a couple months ago. I'm the same person that was clearing the snow on a March Sunday morning to be ready for the next day of March break to start a preseason camp. I'm the same person. I will spend here till 11 o'clock at night, midnight, making sure something is good equipment before the next day's testing. I haven't changed. My anger or passion, however you want to look at it in the field, is the same. I haven't changed. Be who you are and keep going with it. Don't conform.
That's excellent advice, and yeah, a lot of it rings true as well.
I'll give you an example, Rich.
Yeah.
People said to me many times, no, Paolo, your activation with meditation before the game and this and that, it will not work. You can't do it with players at that level. What are you talking about? I have players, World Cup players, national team players. I have top professional players. They are lying down, doing the meditation visualization with me before the game, you know? And it's something that people say, no, you can't do that. That's what I'm saying. Stick to your brand. If you believe in it, you make it happen, you'll go far with it.
Excellent advice. I still don't see any questions here. So I thought maybe
people have a headache. That's why.
It's too much. Yeah.
They went to go get a Tylenol.
Sometimes I feel like that when I talk to you, but I think I feel like that when people talk to me as well.
Don't worry, my wife says the same thing.
Well,
the coaches here say the same thing. In a few minutes, when I go into that dressing room, it's gonna be the same. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, maybe we have that in common then. So then maybe I'll just finish up by asking you a little bit about, and I'll tell you, this is something I've struggled with personally. I think a lot of other coaches probably do, especially the professional ones. Have you found a good work-life balance? Have you has that been is that a challenge? Is that as challenging for you as it is for me? And how do you manage that? Because you've got two daughters.
Good work-life balance.
Right? Yeah.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Okay. The good work-life balance is I work, I'm happy, and my family's happy because I'm happy. That's the work-life balance that I have.
All right.
My wife,
Yeah.
like, as soon as they fired Solari here, they said, "No, man, now that's it. I'm never gonna see you." So, for example, this week, okay, we play at home. I wasn't at home. I was in the hotel, literally across the street. Okay, the night before the game, like, and then at night after the game, I come home at 1 in the morning. So that's why this morning I made training in the afternoon. I was able to go and do something with my kids for a couple hours. But so that's work-life balance, is the balance that makes you happy. Okay, I'm very happy at work. If I'm not happy at work, I will never be happy at home. My wife knows that, and I've always told other friends, listen, don't lie to the people in your lives. You know, if I have to stay here, because I spend 12, 14 hours a day here sometimes, and not because somebody tells me to do that, it's because I know what I need to do to make this happen, to make this career happen. You know, there's not too many people. I didn't speak the language when I got here. I had zero connections, just this club as a connection. And now I've built a life here. And that's because of the commitment I will put to my career, and always will be that way. And I'm thankful that I have somebody like my wife, and my wife is the best at that, at making sure everything works so that I can work. Because otherwise, no, there's no balance, man. There's no balance.
Yeah. Well, I'll agree with you on that one, and hopefully nobody ever asks me about that. So here's a question from Chris Bucciarelli. Finally, a question came in. So my son loves playing soccer academy rep level, but does not like the fitness side. How do I encourage or motivate him to take fitness serious? He's 13 years old.
Okay, 13 years old is already an age where they're pretty smart, the kids. Okay, so for example, I say, I mean, this might actually get you more in trouble, is when you go to school, you're training, right? You're training for something later on in life. It doesn't mean that you're going to be doing the exact same things that you're doing in school. And fitness is the same thing when you're preparing for soccer. You're preparing your will, you're preparing your body, you're preparing your mind, and it goes hand in hand. You cannot have success without being uncomfortable. You cannot. And I've said that, and actually that was one of the revolutions that I've made here in the team the last few weeks, is that you're going to have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I don't care the thorn in the side that I am in. I know that I'm a thorn in the side, but that's because that ain't being uncomfortable is going to bring you somewhere. And the line that I use is that I'm going to demand of you something that you might think that you might not be able to achieve, but I know you can achieve it. And that's why I'm demanding this of you. And when you get to the point that you achieve it, you're going to realize that I was right. And now you're going to realize that you're wrong and that you have more inside of you. And that's why with your son, you need to talk about, you need to feel the suffering. You need to feel uncomfortable. You need to push yourself. And that's what partly fitness is about, creating the confidence that you will have in the field.
Good advice. He's responded. Chris has responded to say thank you. And maybe I would just add that, you know, I mean, if he's rep academy, you know, at 13, he's probably perhaps thinking about that he wants to play at a higher level. You know, you wouldn't be in you'd think anyway that you wouldn't be in a high performance academy or rep team if you're not thinking about playing at a higher level. And the reality is that to prepare yourself for the higher level, part of it is getting into a regular routine with physical training. So whether you like it or not, at some point, you know, you have to reach that point where you say, okay, well, for me to play at a higher level, I'm going to have to do things I don't like, and I don't want to do. So either I learn to like them or
I a higher level.
Yeah.
For me, that should never be the motivation. Okay. For me, making it a higher level, that's not why you do things. Okay. It's an obvious. You have to work hard. Of course, you're gonna have to work hard. Everything is work hard. But how do you shape yourself as a person? The way I am, or the way I was as an athlete, is the way that I am as a worker or an employee or a business owner. Okay. The way I was when I remember, you know, it's raining, 4 p.m. I need to do a mileage run for 60 minutes. And I did it, is the way I am when I say, you know what, I need to make sure I'm at the club at 7 a.m. because we're going to be setting something up at 8 o'clock. So I want to be ready before they're ready. It's creating a mentality. And that's what's most important to transmit to your kids and to your players. You need to form a mentality. And and you do that thanks to sport, you know, and sport really is a great tool to make that happen.
Right. Great. Another question here in the chat from Dennis. Says, I also have a 13-year-old boy playing OPDL, so he's got that in common. I was wondering, what kind of visualization techniques do you recommend for him prior to games and training? Do you have any resources that you recommend to help teach some of these pre-game techniques?
So the reason why I implement visualization and meditation with these top pros is because how many times are they actually quiet by themselves? Hardly ever. Yeah. And I think especially with the younger players right now, these 13, 14, 15-year-olds, with they're getting into the real world, they don't have any quiet time. So I think your recommendation is go spend 5 minutes by yourself. No music, no nothing, no cell phone, no light. Just lie down and think about what you did in training this week. Think about what you want to do in the game, and just take them and have them take themselves through exercises or moments or feelings, and those little things, 4, 5, 10 minutes, if they get too beautiful, a day, 2 or 3 times a week, will be phenomenal, because that's what you need to do, as I was saying with the fitness, in the rest of your life. In the rest of your life, you need to form yourself. You need to create a structure in your life. Right.
And I think if you know, we'll when we wrap things up, we can talk a little bit about you know, the course through United Soccer Coaches, the Paolo.
No, please, I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
I'll send you the links to this opening. It will be moving fast, so yeah, please get the link out, and that way you can get your spot in the program.
Right, and I was speaking right before when you came on, you know, about an hour ago, Paolo, that you know, we've been talking with the National Soccer Coaches Association about perhaps in the future doing another, you know, course that we can make offered, you know, perhaps like in partnership, essentially, between the NSCAC and United Soccer Coaches. Maybe there's a discount for registration or early bird or something like that. So we want to do that, obviously, and you know, these things take time, so we're looking to try to do it in the future. So
yeah. Oh, perfect. I'll get you that link, Richard.
Right on. Okay, Chris is asking about a copy of this interview. So Chris, we've got our YouTube channel and the videos, full videos of this and all of the, you know, the behind the bench webinars. We've got more than 100 of them now, right? They're available to members in our website members only section. So if you're not already a member, you know, please consider joining, and of course you can get access to it that way. So I don't see any more questions here, Paolo. I think yeah, it's a little bit past 3 o'clock. I'm sure you got to get back to work.
Thank you. Yeah,
as do I. So yeah, as I said, you know, I wanted to thank you so much for taking your time, even though it took a while for us to get this going. I'm glad. No, all good, man. I'm glad we did it. And I have to come out there to Mexico to visit you. I've been meaning to. So now that you know, COVID is hopefully behind us, I'll try to make
COVID. We don't have.
I know, exactly. Yeah, well, behind us, I'm saying, us here. Yeah, and you know, as I said, I'll take this time again just to thank you for the, you know, the influence you've had on me in my career. It's been significant, and you know, I said it before, but I'll say again that like the success that I've had in my own career in business and in higher levels of soccer is, you know, I owe some of that to you for sure. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that very much, Richard. That means a lot.
All right. Okay. So hope the family's well, and keep kicking ass.
They're well because I'm not around.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Good. Okay. Well, enjoy it, and we'll talk soon. All right.
All right. Take care. Bye. Okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
All right. Thanks, everyone. All right.